Hey guys, and welcome back to Scorpius. Last night, Darth Transactions and GhazzyTV had a big and very important interview with Jonathan and Mark, the key developers of Path of Exile 2. We took a couple of notes and we're going to go through them just in case you guys haven't watched it. I'm going to try and make it as fast as possible so you get the majority of the updates that are coming in point 2 and what the key developers have in mind for point 3 and onwards for the game. The first question was regarding the patch notes. They did say it's going to be either the end of the week or on Wednesday, but it could also be pushed for Thursday. And the reason why it's not out is because they're still adding new things into the game. So we'll see. Either tomorrow or the day after, we're getting the patch notes, and finally we're going to be able to see what's coming up. Next thing, they asked about the tier systems of the items. For anybody who doesn't know what that means, is in PoE 1, the items will scale from 5 to 0, 0 being the highest one, for example, or the best one. And now we have it the opposite. It's 0 to 5, 5 being the best one. So the question was if they're going to flip it back, and they said that they're not going to do that yet. Another question that was very, very important is the pacing of the game. A lot of us actually have been thinking about what is happening with the game, with all the parries and the blocks that are coming in, and the in and out of combat that Huntress is going to be providing, and all of that when it comes down to the pace of the game. They said that it's not going to change. They don't think it's going to change. Some builds are going to be slower, some builds are going to be faster. But overall, Jonathan said that the playtesting that they did internally, it seems that the pacing of the game is almost identical with what we have now, minus and plus a few new builds and nerfs and buffs and stuff like that. So I don't think we should expect anything crazy. Moving on, we've got the combat mechanics here. They tackled a few pretty cool stuff here. The first one is the block and parry, and how those abilities are going to be affecting the future of Path of Exile 2. And what they had to say is that they want to get block and parry to a state where we can use it in endgame maps as well as the bosses. Because now, obviously, if parry is pretty good with counterattacks, that it goes into combos into the Huntress, it's going to be mostly used on bosses instead of map clearing. So they want to change a few animations and effectiveness of block and parry abilities so we can be able to use it for map clearing. I don't know how easy that's going to be, or how nice that's going to be playing out with all the builds that we know so far in the past 3 months. I don't know if parry or block has any room to be in those builds, but we're going to see. It's definitely not coming out in point 2 though, all of these changes, but it's something that they're working on. Then they spoke a little bit about randomness balancing when it comes down to the axis overlapping of the randomness for mobs and bosses for difficulties. And what they said is that they're fixing mod multipliers and diminishing returns so it can be a little bit more balanced out. Because I'm not sure about you guys, but I had a lot of cases where I would encounter rares that wouldn't die. They would be stuck at 50% health, and that was because overlapping axis of energy shield with maximum health or maximum mana would overlap and make the rares impossible to kill. So all of these things, they found some solutions and they're trying to balance them out, which is a good thing to see. Next one is actually a pretty big one, and I don't think this is going to be a shocker. Magic Find, or otherwise called rarity on items found, is going to see a huge nerf. The power versus the rarity was off balance, as Mark said. So basically, how much power you would sacrifice for how much rarity you would get was insanely in the favor of the rarity, and it was completely off balance. So they said it's going to be a massive nerf when it comes down to Magic Find and what you're going to be able to find through rarity on your items. And also, they also confirmed that 300% and above on rarity is completely useless, and it's going to remain the case like that. We'll see how they're going to balance it, but yeah, it's going to be definitely a pretty big nerf when it comes down to the rarity. Next, they spoke about kill objectives. Now, kill objectives is a new thing that's coming in point 2, and what that is whenever we do endgame maps, on the right side of the screen now, we're going to have objectives that are going to show us what's remaining in the map that we're doing. So the rares, they confirmed that the rares are going to still be the key objective of the maps, but more things are going to be happening, like Rogue Exiles, the new strong boxes, the new essences, all of these things. But rares are still going to be the main objective of the maps. However, if there is a boss in the map, then the boss will be the only objective that you need to clear the map, which means that you can go into a boss map, go all the way to the end, kill the boss, and get out without killing anything else. Instead of you not knowing if this map is a breach map, a ritual map, whatever, it's going to be on the right side, so we know exactly what we need from that map before we exit the map in case we miss anything. Next, they were asked for the death effects, and they said that there's nothing yet fixed or looked at because they don't see any issues with that. Moving forward, we have the bosses, trials, and end game stuff going on, and the changes and the things that they confirmed. They said that the boss's health of the last boss of the trials are going to be decreased because they had an error where the HP was double, so good day. The content is going to be changed so they can fix the repetitiveness of the content, which is also a pretty good change that they're having, so it's not repetitive at all times. So maybe they're going to adjust something with the skills and the balance and the way the UI that plays out, or the animations and stuff like that. And also they Mark specifically said that he does not like the hourglass trial in Trials of Chemist. He thinks that it's boring, he thinks that it's very plain and it's not interesting, so he wants to redesign the whole thing, but it's not going to be in point 2. It's something important that they mentioned, which is going to be a good addition for later on. Other bosses in general, not only the trials, they're going to have less health. They're going to be lower in difficulty, the pinnacle bosses that is. They're going to have better accessibility. So what they want to do right now is they want to make all pinnacle bosses less hard to do. They're going to be easier. Why? Because they want to attract the lower builds, the more casual players, to be able to get to those bosses and kill them in tier 0 and 1 and 2, for example, rather than having only the best builds being able to kill them, which is what's going to make the build stand out. You know what I mean? So it's a very good change here for the majority of players in the game. In addition to that, the uniques are going to be improved from the bosses, from the pinnacle bosses. They did confirm that there's going to be no new uniques from the existing bosses that we currently have. However, they did confirm we're going to get new bosses. Next up here, we've got the end game maps. Touch-ups are happening for point 3 and onwards, not now for point 2. They said they don't have a lot of time to do that, but what they say about touch-ups is that they're going to fix a few things here and there on the existing maps and make them a little bit more reliable to go through and not as repetitive and stuff like that. But that's going to be later on. Then they said that biomes, they're working on them and they're aware of the issues. Darth actually asked one of my favorite questions of last night's interview, is if we will be able to change biomes in case we don't want to run things like Val Foundry or things like that. And they said that they know about this issue and they have a lot of ideas that they're working on them, but it's not going to be in point 2. Then world map atlas should be fixed, they said. So the things that we had disconnections that we couldn't go there for no reason, that should be fixed, they said. However, there is a known internal bug that they're aware of for the map connections. You know, guys, sometimes we go to a specific map, we do that map, and we should be able to path somewhere else, and it doesn't allow us to path somewhere else. That's the bug that they know about, and they're trying to fix it, but they can't. And that happens because a single map should have up to 4 connections, and that's it. If it has more than 4 connections and it has a 5th one, that map now is bugged, and you're not going to be able to go anywhere out of those 4 connections. They know about it. They're trying to fix it. Anyway, the cool thing that they said about the endgame maps is that we're getting a brand new tablet apart from the one that they previewed and teased, which that one is going to allow you to run any map that you want on the Atlas without pathing through it. Now we have the second new tablet that they announced, which is going to allow you to run all maps twice, with all of them being juiced. So imagine you juice like a plethora of maps, 15 maps. You juice them up, you put this tablet, and now you can run them a second time after you've completed the first one, and it's going to contain their juiciness as well. So it's really, really, really good. Insanely good tablet. And this is just 2 out of the many that are coming. Moving on, Simulacrum and Audience of the King kind of things. It's going to be more frequent now. It's going to have better accessibility. So it's going to be buffed, which is really cool to see. The Rogue Exiles, they had a question whether the Rogue Exiles are going to scale from the lowest Rogue Exile they're going to find all the way to the end game map, Obviously, they will scale, they said. For the first time, whoever's starting in the new league, the Rogue Exiles are going to start appearing from the Cruel difficulty, what they call internally the Part 2 of the campaign. So while we're leveling, we're not going to get a level 80 Rogue Exile. We're going to get a Rogue Exile at our level. And whenever you're doing endgame maps, you're not going to get a level 32 Rogue Exile. You're going to get a endgame Rogue Exile. That's what this means. And no, the Rogue Exiles are not going to be having any boss uniques. Those are going to stay for the bosses. Moving on, we've got some skills and resources that they spoke about briefly. First thing is the Temporalis. The CD is reduced now. It's nerfed, and they said it's going to be a pretty significant nerf on Blink, on Temporalis. And also, there's going to be lower relic drop as well. Mark said up to 10 times rarer than what it used to be. For the Ascendancy, they asked them about weapon swap, and weapon swap with Ascendancies is going to be possible. They asked them if they believe that critical chance, critical hit chance, critical bonus, all of these things, if they think that the multipliers are in a good place, and it didn't seem that they have an issue with them. So they did say that multiplication with crit is pretty big, but we don't see any issue with it. Until we see that there's massive issue with crit, we're not going to touch anything on it, so don't expect anything happen with the crit, which is still good news. Gem leveling, they asked them if we can scale the gems according to what we want, because if we have level 19, instead of having multiple different uncut, if we're going to be able to lower it and increase the level without having all of the uncut skill gems and all that stuff, they said not going to change it, but maybe they will change the design later on, not in point 2. We have the mana system. The point that was given for the mana system was that there are a lot of abilities that cost a lot of mana that they shouldn't cost a lot of mana, and they were giving like Warrior as an example. And Mark said that the whole design and the whole mentality into how abilities should cost mana should be on how frequently you use that ability. So for example, abilities like Spark, that it's a very frequent ability that you use, should have less mana, and infrequent abilities like Hammer of the Gods should cost more. So that's still going to be the case. However, they have lowered the mana scaling for almost everything, which is a huge buff, and it's really good. But mana stacking is significantly going to be nerfed. So I don't know now if all the plans of the builds with mana stacking, like the Lich, one of the Lich Ascendancy nodes had to do with mana stacking. I don't know if that's going to be a big deal for that one, but they definitely confirmed that mana stacking is going to be significantly nerfed. Ingenuity and Hoa, both of those items are both nerfed. Next, they asked them if weapon diversity is going to change, if it's going to be a little bit more diverse, and they said absolutely not. The last point that I want to cover here before we go into crafting is Perfect Jeweler's Orb. They said that yes, we agree, it's currently very low and it's going to be increased, which is good, but here's the beautiful part. They said that now Perfect Jeweler's Orb is going to immediately get to you to 6-link directly. You don't need to put a smaller Jeweler Orb, then the greater the Jeweler Orb, and then the Perfect Jeweler's Orb. So you get one Jeweler's Orb, you just slap it in there and you get all 6 links. Next topic is crafting. And what they said for crafting, which is very positive, is that every single league from now on is going to be including more crafting options, which is always a good thing. They didn't say what, but they did say that they have plans for the future, which is good. And they're not things from PoE 1. They're going to be unique things on PoE 2 and a mixture of PoE 1, so that's good. They spoke that they really like the recombination in PoE 2 and how it looks right now. They're both convinced that it's going to be different to PoE 1 in its own way. And what Jonathan said is that it's better for people to use recomb for the first 2 to 4 first modifiers of the gear. Don't try to get the perfect item from recom. It's better used for the first 2 to 4 modifiers, and then you slap on exalted orbs or essences or stuff like that to complete the whole item, which I think that it's a really good strategy as well. They were also asked, and I was very shocked when Darth asked this, about resistance swaps. which is a question that I had as well. It would be really cool for crafting to have a way to switch cold resistance to fire at will, but they categorically said no. That's why you have the runes for it. So yeah, I guess we're not getting that, but that's for crafting what they had to say last night. Moving on, we have the classes and the abilities. First of all, they confirmed the bleeding is on energy shield as well. It doesn't surpass the energy shield and deal damage on the maximum life. Regarding ignite, there's not going to be any changes yet. They don't think that there's any massive issues with ignite. It's going to stay like that. Then they had a lot of talk about ailments, and the conclusion of the ailments is that they said it should complement the build to increase damage of hits. So when they were talking about ailments, the question was, do you guys think that ailments should be called the main thing of the build? For example, it's an ailment build, or should ailments continue being the support of the builds? And in a lot of cases, it even surpasses that, because the majority of the modifiers that we're getting are ailments, and they said that it should complicate the build. So I don't think that we're going to see any changes with the ailments. It should support the damage of the hits, so you want to have ailments, but if they see that it goes overboard, then obviously the nerf hammer is going to come and hit it directly. Just a recap, just a small disclaimer here before we jump into the ascendancies. They didn't have a lot of information because they don't remember the names, they don't remember what was changed. They said multiple times that while they're talking right now and sitting through this interview, there are changes happening internally, so they couldn't answer a lot of questions. But for focused fire, for example, they had a question and it says it's uncertain if there's any issues and how it will work. They need us to play test, and then obviously they're going to do changes while the launch is happening as well, while we're play testing all of these new abilities. Next, they asked for the tacticians supporting minion, and this I think is a small, tiny negative thing for the tacticians, whoever wants to go for the supporting minion build. According to them, it's not an actual minion. It is a minion. It is something that helps you, but it's not in the. It's not in front of you. It's nowhere near you. It's above you. Apparently, it's out of screen, which means it's not going to be in the player's presence. So, getting things like increased damage to all allies in your presence, it's not going to actually affect the minion. Moving on, the second new ascendancy, Smith of Kitava, which is going to be the new warrior's ascendancy. We have the first question is for temper weapon. They were asking them how it's going to work, and they said it's going to be a channeling mechanic where you're going to hit a few times quickly. They did confirm that you don't need to do that for every single pack, which means you do it once and you're going to have like a hit duration that's going to stay for a while. So that's good news. Manifest weapon, they said that it copies the weapon that you currently have without spirit. So you don't need spirit to use manifest weapon, which is another positive thing for Smith of Kitava. And the cool thing about it is that this weapon is not just going to be auto attacking. It's going to be using skills based on what weapon you're using. Maces are going to use different animations, different skills than axes, than swords, etc, etc, etc. So it's pretty cool stuff for the Smith of Kitava so far. Moving on to one of the biggest ones. The first question was for Eternal Life. Eternal Life, it says your life cannot change while you have energy shield. So obviously there's a lot of builds, there's a lot of thought process behind it, where people were thinking, okay, so if I actually take the energy shield and I do a couple of different things here and there, this might make me immortal. So that was the question for them, right? And the answer to that is that immortality mechanics are being evaluated right now. Mark and Jonathan were not aware that this might happen, or if this is happening. So as I said, they're very busy. They don't know every single ability, but they said, don't worry about it. You're definitely not going to be immortal. If that's the case, then they're going to change it, and we'll see. We'll still see. We need to play test it. They need us to play test it so they can see how it's going to work. But just for false hope or anything like that, don't expect this to be working as immortality. If it does, they're going to very quickly find out and change it. That was the overall discussion about Eternal Life. The second one that they had a discussion on was Necromantic Conduit, which they were asking if it was current or max mana. And the Necromantic Conduit is this one right here that says you and allies in your presence have Unholy Might, which Unholy Might is this one down here. While you are not on low mana, lose 5% of mana per second. What they said, and it's pretty good clarification, is that if it doesn't say maximum, it's current. And the last thing on the Lich Ascendancy is regarding the Jewel Socket. Darth asked them if adorned sockets should affect it. Mark said, I don't know, I need to check it, but I don't see a problem with it if it does. So probably adorned jewels are going to be able to help the effectiveness of this right here. Crystalline Philastery, I don't know if I can bring it over for you guys to see. It's this node all the way down here. Moving on, they had one question for the Amazon. They were talking about the critical strike node. It says chance to hit with attacks can exceed 100%. Gain additional critical hit chance equal to 25% of excess chance to hit with attacks. The question here was if this is on base, and the answer to that is yes. If it's on base, this is going to be insanely good. So I'm really excited to try that one out and go for a full crit build. But again, don't forget what they said about the crit before, right? So if crit goes out of hand, they're gonna slap it real good. But yeah, anyway, moving on, we've got the ritualist. The question here was if the third ring slot is gonna work with ingenuity. The answer to that is yes, but it's significantly nerfed. And the second thing that I told you guys that I was excited for the ascendancies is this right here. I always had the question since the teaser if the ritual sacrifice is going to be taking all the mods or not, because in the trailer it took all the mods. The actual ability says modifiers, plural, but on the reveal night, Jonathan said modifier 1, and they clarified it was 1. So we didn't know. And last night they said it's going to be all modifiers, which means this spell right here goes back to my main build 100%. So we're going to the Asmerian Wisps. The question was, what if we have a build in the end game that's clearing the map so fast that the Wisps don't have the chance to affect and possess the enemies? And their answer to that is that the Wisps are pretty fast and they have pretty good radius to possess, so don't worry about that. Process of possessions, the monsters cannot die, meaning that if a Wisp starts possessing a rare, the rare cannot be killed until the possession happens. So obviously, if we're clearing things outside of the screen, it cannot be controlled, but usually we shouldn't have issues like that. Next, we have a couple of minion updates here. So no body blocking changes for now. When you have minions as a witch and you go too far, they will die and then they're going to spawn next to you. So that's two different actions that are happening that need the full motion of animation. Spectres is not going to be like that. They're going to become spirits, they're going to vanish and then just appear next to you so we can cut the performance issues. So it's a pretty decent change animation wise, technical wise, whatever the case is. Ghazzy obviously tried to see if there's going to be any buffs for the witch early game. They said absolutely not. The class is doing pretty good, so there's the answer for that one. Then offering skills unchanged for low level minions, but working on manual selection. So what that means is that witches, they use an ability called Path of the Offering or something like that, where whenever you place it, it sacrifices a minion, and the problem is that it's random, and usually the randomness takes the lowest level minion and sacrifices that one. So they said that they're working on a change, which is like sacrificial lamb, I think they called it, like an ability where you're gonna be able to place the minions that you want, and it's not confirmed it's gonna be on 0.2, but we'll see. Another cool change about the specters is if you don't want your current specter and you want to get something else, you can disenchant it so you can get the original gem back. But again, it's not going to be in 0.2. It's something that they're trying to release as soon as possible. So it can be in like 2 weeks after 0.2 launches, a week or 3 weeks, a month. I don't know, but they're working on that 100%, which is going to be another good addition for the minion builds. Spectre scaling, it's not going to scale the spirit cost, but it's going to scale the power of the actual monster that you want to get. And how they calculate the spirit, because the question was you kill a bunch of stuff and then the spirit pops on top of the stuff that you killed for you to be able to use it and spectre it and stuff like that. They said that spirit is calculated as a multiplier of the effectiveness of the monster. So they get how much XP that monster would give you and what loot it could give you, and then put it together and determine the spirit that way. Tame beasts, as I said before, cannot tame bosses. This is the good news for everybody. All classes can use this ability. So every single class can use Tame Beast. Is not a huntress specific, which means witches, can go for specters, can go for your minion builds, and contain beasts as well, which is pretty cool. They said that they also are working on fixing animations and colors as well for the tame beast, so it doesn't affect us in any way or have any bugs that damage us for some reason or affect our performance in any way. Moving on, we've got the technical features as well. Some visual updates. They said rares versus monsters. They had a question if they could change the colors of the rares and the monsters so we can see them from afar and understand the difference. They said absolutely no colors and hues are going to be happening here. The only thing that they're considering is some visual skill changes that should come later on. Next, for the interface, lockstepping, they said that there's no changes to that. Searching nodes in the tree, they know the issue and they said that we know it's a bad issue, it's very bad design, and we are definitely planning on doing things and fixing it to make the glow better or get you to get to the passive node that you're looking for, but they don't have time to do it now. It's not going to be in point 2, but it's definitely in their priority list as well, which is pretty cool. API and filters is still under review. They confirmed that there's no languages or new languages coming to PoE2 at the moment in point 2. One of my favorite things that they said is that the depression maps, like I call them, they have been lowered by 5%, he said, and he's going to go back and play test it a little bit and might lower it even further. So fog is getting fixed, finally. So that's another good change here. They said the private league is not yet implemented and the character profiles are being worked on for the website as well as for POB as well, which they said is very important for them to be able to fix that so they can be able to check what players are doing as well. So that's also high into their priority list, but it's not yet done and it's not going to be in point 2. It's going to be later on. And for trading, whenever Darth asked Jonathan for trading, Jonathan immediately interrupted him and said, nope, I don't have any comments for trading. Those are all of the updates of last night's interview as quickly as I possibly can. The whole interview was 2 hours long. But yeah, that's basically everything that they confirmed, which is exciting stuff. There's some very, very cool stuff happening. We cannot wait. Hopefully tomorrow or the day after, we're going to get the patch notes and have more information and do another video to cover even more things that we discover. But yeah, we cannot wait. Friday is coming very, very soon. The new league is coming out very soon, Dawn of the Hunt, and we're going to see you in there. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I'm going to see you guys on the next one. Peace.